we wanted to go down this road of performance and balancing of life, if you please. So we've invited Dr. Morris Pickens to join us, a sports psychologist at Sea Island Golf Performance Center. And Dr. Mo, as you can see, that's just an example of some of those whose lives he has touched. He's got a PhD in sports psychology from UVA. His players have won over 30 times in the PGA Tour, including multiple majors, as you just saw. Keegan Bradley, Davis Love III, Justin Leonard, Davis Thompson, just more players in addition to those photos that he's worked with. He deals with the themes of performance under pressure, the importance of a routine, that golf can't be your identity. I want to get into that. As I mentioned, he is at the Sea Island Golf Performance Center. And he's joining us live this morning from the Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches. Dr. Mo, it's good to have you on the program. Thank you for taking the time today. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious, Doc. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing, right? What comes first, the performance or the confidence?
Well, for some people, maybe the confidence, but I would say the performance. I mean, I think to me, confidence is really knowledge of what you're doing in any given situation. So the guys that are more prepared and they kind of know what they're doing. I mean, I guess you could be confident in something you've never done before, but it's much easier if you're getting ready to play on a Sunday morning and you've been there before. That's why a lot of times you see guys who might struggle their first or second time in contention, and then they kind of learn how their body reacts and where their mind goes, and they get better at it. So
when you see great players like a Jack Nicklaus or a Tiger Woods, Doc, are they wired differently? Is there a different capacity to handle pressure when it's at its nth degree? Or is it something that in your profession you say, no, we all can get to a certain level? I guess my question is, are some people pre-wired to be better at it?
I don't believe so. I believe that you can absolutely learn how to get mentally tougher, to handle situations, to deal with pressure better. Now, some people may be more motivated to actually work at it harder. That's the part that might be more innate. People that are really just driven, and some people don't like the feeling of failure. And so they're not really motivated to put themselves in that situation again and give themselves a chance to succeed or fail. But as far as like learning how to make yourself mentally tough, I think that is a skill that's acquired over time. I mean, if you go back and you read a lot of the things from Nicklaus or from Tiger, they both talk about, how they got better through trials and situations that they were put in, either as a kid or either as, failing early in their kind of golf careers.
I want to get into that detail with you a little bit as well, but there's something else that when I was going through the highlights of who you are and what you do, and folks, you can go to Dr. Mo's website by logging on to drmolearntowin.com. That's drmolearntowin.com. How do you separate, particularly you're talking about young players and how sometimes we can watch them ascend right before our eyes, but how do you separate a player, a person, their identity from the score that they shoot?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something I discuss with my players all the time. And I think part of it is making sure that your identity is in other things. And, we talk just in life in general about work-life balance. And I would really talk about kind of having a work-life break. And that doesn't matter if you're a professional golfer or if you're, running a company. When you're at work, you want to be at work and be where your feet are. And then when you leave, you want to go enjoy your kid's ball game or your daughter's recital or whatever you're at. And so that's really the way that I would talk about specifically how you do that. I think the more you can make a physical break, the better you're going to be able to mentally compartmentalize that. So like with all my college players, we talk a lot about, hey, when you put your clubs in the locker or when you put them back in your car, take just a minute or two to literally kind of like, okay, hey, I'm done with that. And I put in good work, but I'm done with that. I'm not a golfer 24/7. and now I'm going to go enjoy college, or I'm going to go be with my family, or whatever the activity that you're getting into. You want to, if you can make a physical break, some kind of little reminder, it will help you mentally get in the right space.
Doctor, what is fear?
Well, I mean, I think it could be different things, but I think fear is really just kind of this anxious feeling, primarily of the unknown. And so I think when something's unknown, and it could be a social situation, it could be a competitive situation, it could be an academic situation, you're not sure. I mean, I can remember going to college, and like a lot of people, your first 2 weeks, you're like, man, am I going to be able to handle this, or how hard? And then once you get into a rhythm and a routine, I'm very big on routines and kind of like establishing what you're going to do. Chris talked about that in his interview. And, once you get that down, then you're like, okay, hey, I kind of got my rhythm to what I want to do and how I'm going to go about my day. And, and that gets down into even little things like, I think a guy has more confidence and less fear when they really know what they're doing over the golf ball. And that could be physically what they're going to do, visually where their eyes are going to go, mentally, are you going to have a swing thought, or you're not going to have a swing thought? So, those are the kind of specific details we get into with performance. And then there's a different element of, okay, hey, I need to break that, and now golf's not going to be my life. And for a lot of, parents out there, what I would really encourage them is, you might say that, but your actions speak louder than your words. So, get out of the habit of your son or daughter plays great and you go to a nice restaurant and they play poor, and you go drive through somewhere, because that's sending the signal that, hey, you are your score, and you don't want to teach your kids that.
No, that's a great way to look at it. From that, let's follow on that theme just for a second with young people,
Yeah.
particularly with junior golfers. What's your advice to parents to keep them from being, like the little league mom or dad, from being too involved, from actually setting their junior golfer on a road to burnout?
I think the biggest thing there is understanding what stage your daughter or son is at. And when they start golf, you're kind of the overall caddy or caretaker, but then you progress, from that into more of, maybe a little bit of a coach. But then when they get 12, 13, 14, their physical skills, you really want to turn them over to someone else. And then at that point, be a chauffeur, right? And then ultimately end up being a consultant where, hey, they'll call you when you're needed. But so I teach parents, hopefully, to go through kind of stages from caretaker to caddy to chauffeur to consultant. And if you do that, then, you will be helping your child develop and not just overseeing every little thing they do. I mean, when they're 13, 14 years old, they're almost about to drive a car. They can definitely drive a golf cart. You don't need to carry everything on the golf course for them. So, let them do their own thing. Let them develop.
How do you have the hard conversation with parents when there's a strong indication that what they're doing is they're living through a glory that they may have been denied in their own lives that they hope to see captured by their son or daughter?
Yeah, I think those are hard conversations. And I think you just have to be very honest with them and tell them, hey, I know you have the best intentions, because, I have 4 children and I hadn't done everything great myself, but I think most parents have really good intentions. Sometimes we just go about it the wrong way. And so that's what I encourage them to do, is to make sure, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get your son or daughter to play the golf course. And some of the hardest conversations are when I'm telling the parent, hey, they're not playing the golf course. They're playing the conversation with you, or the phone call with you after the round while they're on the second hole. And that's not going to turn out well. And but I think you just be honest and say, hey, parenting is hard. As Chris said, it's hard. It's not the easiest thing to do. And if you're in a space where you're not sure if what you're doing is helpful, then go talk to people that have been there before you and figure out, hey, what'd you do? We've all seen parents that go about it the right way, and we've all seen some parents that probably are doing some things you're like, wow, I hope I don't look like that. And so, yeah, try to learn and literally make yourself better in that role. You know, either with parents of another student or whoever you're using in terms of coaches and that sort of thing.
Dr. Morris Pickens is a sports psychologist at the Sea Island Golf Performance Center. drmolearntowin.com is his website. drmolearntowin.com is his website. Hey, Doc, are you holding your phone with your right arm?
I am.
Does it feel like it's about to fall off right now?
Well, it's not about to fall off quite yet, but it's getting there, yeah.
You can switch arms. You won't offend us, just so you know. You don't have to be in pain while you're going through this thing. Okay, so there you go. See, the frame looks every bit as good. You mentioned that you were listening to the last segment, and you heard Chris Kirk talking about how he's balancing his life with the challenges that he's faced, etc. So my question is, from the outside looking in as fans, I think it's reasonable and it's common that we look at what professional athletes are doing, and you've dealt with professional athletes and you've dealt with athletes, whether we're talking about collegiate or pro ranks, outside of golf, inside of golf, etc. We look at that and go, geez, the life seems perfect. Things couldn't be better. Can you talk to us about the pressures that a professional athlete faces, both internally and externally, and how to deal with all of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's real pressure in the sense of other than a maybe select 20, 30 guys out here who are established and maybe have some other contracts. But in professional golf, I mean, you gotta keep your job every year. And there's a reality to that in the sense of, hey, it's hard. And there's the players out here are so good. And it's just every day waking up knowing like, hey, I got to go perform. So I think that pressure is always there. Maybe once you've been out here, 4 or 5 years and you've kind of established yourself, but there's a window where maybe it's quote easier, but then on the backside, as Chris talked about, as you're getting older and you got to take care of your body and you got to do some things, you got to be able to adapt and adjust to keep meeting that demand. So, professional golf is a commission only job. And, and there's the reality of having to perform. And then as far as, whatever goes with that would be how you've set your life up, potentially, who else is in your life and who is speaking to you, that sort of thing. Like I know Chris talked about his family and his kids and that sort of thing. And he's I would think, the primary breadwinner there. And so just the reality of, hey, I need to do this to provide for my family, but at the same time, I got to do this travel, and he wants to be a great father. And he talked about that being his number one job. Well, that's a hard thing to do when you're gone 20, 25 weeks a year. And so how do you balance that? And the reality is you're going to miss a lot of activities. You're going to miss, kids' recitals. You're going to miss some of their ball games. And, I think like he talked about, having a support system, whoever he's got in terms of professionally who he's working with, but then also just your friends at home, your wife, your family, your extended family, just for those people to realize how difficult it is. It looks real fun because what they show and what we watch Sunday afternoon, the 10 to 12 guys that might be in contention the last 2 hours. What you don't see, the guys who's already missed the cut on Friday and, he's practicing or trying to figure out his travel plans or if he's going to be in, sorry about that, live TV, if he's going to be in the next week.
You're there live. It doesn't bother us all, Dr. Mel. I want to follow up on something you said when you mentioned, because we've got a couple minutes left here with you.
Okay.
You said that confidence is knowledge. And for some reason, it reminded me of a quote that Paul Azinger said to me one time where he said, when you have confidence, you never think you're going to lose it. And when you lose it, you never think you're going to get it back. What knowledge, what revelation can you provide, can you consult on that could help lead someone back to the elusive?
Well, I think, one of the questions that I always ask students, whether they're 14 years old or whether they've been out here for 10 years, I want to know what they were doing and what they can remember when they played their best. And everything from swing thoughts to what they did practicing, what they were working on, potentially who they were with that week. And I'm not a big proponent of journaling everything, but I am a proponent of journaling kind of your best rounds and your worst rounds. And so I think in any kind of avenue of life, I think when you perform really well or you perform poor, that's when you can learn the most. Because you need to figure out, hey, how am I going to repeat this, or how am I going to kind of stop doing this? So I would really encourage players out there, when they play really well or they play awful, and it could even be a stretch. It could be just 4 or 5 holes where they were a few under or they were 5 or 6 over. Like, what was going on? And what was going on specifically in terms of, did you, did you kind of lose your momentum? Where did you go? And that's why it's so important to have routines on the course that say, hey, I know what to do around the golf ball. I know what I'm doing, and it doesn't matter if I'm 2 under or if I'm 6 over. This is what I do when I play my best. And that's what I'm always trying to get players to kind of get back to. But if you don't make notes of that and you don't study that, you're not just going to automatically remember it, especially when you're under pressure.
Dr. Mo, learntowin.com is his website. Dr. Mo, learntowin.com. Dr. Mo, I think you should put out a YouTube video on shoulder and arm workout just by holding your phone extended out in front of you, because it does start to burn after a while. Thank you so much for your time. It was good to catch up with you again.
Great catching up with y'all. Y'all have a good day. Thanks.